Hi, it's Leonore. Welcome to Soul Searching Tarot. Today I have Riley back with me. I'm so happy that he is back with me. Today we're going to be talking about men's spirituality and the whole bit, okay? As well as self-love, emotional relationships, leadership, stuff like that. Okay, Riley?
Absolutely.
I love bringing him and I love talking to him because we could talk about a whole bunch of stuff, okay? So don't mind us. All right, so one of the things I wanted to address with my men and women, of course, you're more than welcome to listen, but I definitely want to address this to men because I definitely feel that men are the leaders. And so they're the biggest role models, I feel, to our future, which are our children, whether they're female, males, transgender. You know, I really think that the leadership they play in our present time definitely helped mold these kids for our future. And so the system is right now, I feel like, is failing our children. Do you kind of feel that way?
Yes, absolutely.
Mental health, especially mental health, you know, family, you know, what can you add on that? Education.
Well, it's permeating through all the system as a whole. The roles are being compromised, which is causing a lot of hysteria in male and female relationships, chemistry, energy, such and so forth.
Like, what is your opinion as far as men? What do they need to learn? Because this is not something we learn in school. This is something we learn from childhood. And so our childhood molds us. And so this is why it's so important for me to talk to men about, you know, how they should act and model for our kids. And so what is it that they need to learn to repair relationships, either from their childhood, from any trauma, that can help them mold these kids into being leaders of our future?
I think in terms of men and their childhood, I would definitely say modeling who are the role models in those children's lives, the fathers, uncles, brothers, and who's also teaching them. I think sometimes what happens is men go through certain challenges, or even as boys, they experience certain things, and they have a hard time expressing or finding an outlet to be able to take that into manhood. And I would say as they get older, they have to, at a point in your development, you've gotten so far along that you haven't survived. So you're in survival mode. You haven't survived survival, and you have to survive survival so you can reprogram your thinking and your thought pattern. But to the original question, I would say men, or boys I should say, should learn to be more objective, thinking about being protective of their families, going out, getting dirty again, playing, doing things that exploration, things that a man should learn how to do. And I know some people feel like, well, there shouldn't be any, women should do that too, and I'm not saying that women shouldn't do that. I'm just saying that as far as purpose, a man finds its purpose in having an objective and understanding role as a young man to a man.
What is it that you do exactly?
Well, I'm in the mental health field, and I deal with a variety of different cases of children in the homes, in the schools, such and so forth. So I've seen what absentee fathers and lack of men in their lives have produced. But so I guess to answer your question is, you have to, as young men, you have to try to find and seek mentorship from other informed men. It doesn't mean that the mother or the auntie can't help you, but there's just certain elements, there's just certain levels of teaching that you can get from men, strong men who know they are men. And I think sometimes what happens is, when it comes to growth, you have kids that are scarred and who have been through things, and what has happened is they go through a phase in life, and it can transfer up to adulthood too, where you begin to think that you can only learn through hurt. But once you stop learning through hurt, your life will stop. What will happen is life won't hurt you to teach. It will be the opposite. And you have to put yourself in a position. There are a lot of people who don't have fathers, but who have sought out uncles, mentors, friends. Or I know people who they go to their friends' fathers for mentorship. I mean, when you're ready to learn, when you're ready to put yourself in a position of understanding, you will find it sooner or later.
When I say the system, by no means do I mean our teachers, our social workers, our medical health facilitators, or anything like that. You know, there is a larger, I shouldn't say larger, but definitely a small group of people that facilitates all of this, kind of like this branch, or this tree branch, I should say, that facilitates everything, mental health, education, poverty, you know, you name it. And so it all comes from the higher up. That's what I want to say. It all comes from the higher up. Who is that higher up?
Well, I think what has happened is that it's the misconception of, you know, tapping into manhood is sometimes considered, as they say, toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. And even though social workers and psychologists and teachers, they may mean well, and they may attempt to tap into the help, well, the sense of help, but help, just because you're attempting to help does not make you productive, does not make it effective, I should say, more or less. And I don't really hear too many people talking to these young men and telling them it's okay to protect your family as a man. It's okay to want to provide for a woman worthy of those provisions. It's okay, you know, to be that type of masculine. That's not toxic. That's nature. You know, it doesn't take away from a woman's strength because a man is strong. You know, I'm hearing now in the past couple of months women saying, I'm kind of getting tired of playing these both roles. I kind of I want some support.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand the mental health aspect as far as people nurturing and saying it's okay, we won't judge you, and we you know, I understand that you may mean well in certain regards.
Yeah.
But you have to tap into the nature of an individual.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe religion can, or any type of ministry, can help, like I have parents, seen, you know, especially old-fashioned parents or grandparents, just throw the word God or scriptures and say, this is what you have to obey. Now, to me, again, this comes from a higher up. You know, who says that, you know, the Bible can mold a, you know, let's say a kid that wants to be other than what he was, what he or she is. Like for example, if a girl wants to be known as a boy, or if a boy wants to be known as a girl, who says, you know, that the, you know, if they have to go by a certain, the gender that they were born, who says that you can't not be that way? And so what I hate is when they throw the Bible, the scriptures, or God, and there's hate crimes, you know, even within the family. You know, again, to me, this is a system that's failing because they're going by scriptures and God and Bible and stuff like that. It's not, you know, you're basically limiting the brain of a young boy or a young girl. And so, you know, us, you know, and I say us because we do both work with children. We're supposed to set an example because they're probably not getting it at home, like you said. And so, you know, this is the nurturing part that's missing. Whether they're male, whether they're female, whether they're transgender, this is the nurturing part they're missing. And so if they're missing this part, how can we teach them how to nurture themselves before they nurture or love someone else? If they're not getting that self-love from themselves because they're being taught, you know, that this is not right. They're limiting themselves to being, again, you know, they're not being learned. They're not learning that this is, it's not like life is limitless. You know, is what I'm trying to say. Life is limitless. Why do we, you know, have to limit them into believing that this is how they're supposed to do, what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to act, you know? And I feel like it just, I feel like this is childhood trauma, part of the childhood trauma that our males, even our own males, when we teach them that you can't cry, or you can be emotional and stuff like that. Even with females, you know, you have to be married at a certain age, you need to show your boobs if you need to, you know, find a rich man, you know, stuff like that. Like, right. Who says that? Who made up these rules is what I'm saying, you know?
Okay, I mean, the first part, you know, religion is like most things, it's a timepiece, it's a culture that may have been influential at a particular time based on the needs and the wants of a particular demographic. So, you know, for somebody to say, this is the way it used to be, I understand that, but the only constant is change. It doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't wisdom, because those people were here before us and they may have acquired certain information, because certain laws are not going to change, but cultures do change. So it's a balance between the law that governs a certain philosophy and the culture that is compromised due to the needs, because what you need in 2020 you didn't need in 15 BC. It's different. Correct. Second thing that you talked about was, I was chiming in on the 80-20 rule. It's not that men shouldn't be nurtured, because the first message that a woman gets is from a woman, his mother. I think nurturing is extremely important, and I think that if you don't have primary nurturing from a mother, then you're going to overcompensate as an adult. Absolutely, without question. Yes. However, if you are blessed, fortunate, privileged enough to receive that nurturing from your mother, sisters, aunties, at a certain age, you have to find the balance into your manhood. Correct. So You know, I don't know if was there a third part?
There wasn't a third part.
Okay.
You know, they have to learn to love someone on television or someone that it's not, you know, it's not reality, because that reality is only 2%, where 98% is the reality that you need to basically learn how to self-love. And so how can we transform our children into self-love or the law of love that some people would like to say? How can we transform that, and how can we play role models to them?
That's a very good question. The first thing is to understand the nature and the energy of love. Because love is not an emotion as it is the mother of all emotions. So anything that is taken from love can have a side effect. And this, for example, hate is usually stemming from the absence of love. Greed stems from the absence of love. You know, jealousy stems from the absence of love. Not always with other people, but sometimes love from ourselves. And what tends to happen is, how can I say this the right way without being offensive? If you give love to the wrong people, subconsciously it's because you feel you don't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're teaching kids love, and you're role modeling and teaching them, you have to teach them from an essence of, you know, it's incorporated in all things. The groundwork, how consistent are you? How concise are you? Are you willing, how many times are you willing to say no for the right reasons? What is your accountability? How are you teaching? You know, are you doing, do you hold them accountable differently when you on payday than you do when you have to pay the rent? You know, does your money dictate how you hold them accountable? Because money's a mood changer. So when you're in a good mood, what do you do? You know, how consistent are you?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was just thinking of a song while you were saying, there's a couple of things that you said that really hit exactly what I wanted to know, but the Eurythmics came to mind. It's a group from the 80s. I can't remember the lead singer name, but you ever heard the song, you know, I'm not a good singer, so I apologize in advance.
Oh, here we go.
Some of them want to use you.
Right. Okay, here we go.
Some of them want to be used by you. Some of them want to abuse you. And so, you know, to me, when I remember listening to that song as a child, and even now, I totally, like, that to me is a form of relationships and partnerships that you form from childhood to adults. And so when you see, you know, people being used, abused, you using them, you know, you learn those things. And so, yes, you did hit a couple of key points. But yes, keep going.
But no, it's fine. And this is where we have to be very careful too, because sometimes the word love and the action of love may not coincide. For example, unfortunately, you have people who have been molested by family members, you know, people that trusted in close family members, friends of family members, and they were told, you know, before it happened, oh, I love you. So a child growing up may say, but here, for another person say, I love you, and that could become traumatizing to a child, because their perception of love is, okay, after the word love, somebody's going to touch me.
Yes, correct.
So we need to be very mindful of the words that we use and make sure it's synonymous with an action. not just a word. Because love means different things to different people because of their previous experiences.
Yes. So which brings us to relationships, love relationships, whether they're marriage, commitments, common, you know, relationships, baby mama, baby daddy, whatever you call it, those type of partnerships. Why do they fail? Why do you think they fail sometimes? And how can we, you know,
well,
make it positive?
Well,
even when they fail, how can we make it positive?
See, relationships a lot of times fail because we're not honest with ourselves from what we are looking for. See, a lot of times we're looking to be completed, and hence lack of love, as we said earlier. You know, when you have self-love, not narcissistic love, but self-love in a true essence, in an intrinsic form, then you're not looking for somebody to complete you. You know what I'm saying? Because what happens is, if you're looking for somebody to complete you, that just means that you haven't found yourself. So how could you love somebody if you don't even have the proper energy or the proper tools to do so?
Yeah.
So relationships are failing because of lack of accountability. Nobody's honest and saying, you know what, I don't really like this person.
Yes.
You know, or I like this person for this reason.
Yes.
You know, or you know, he makes a lot of money, but I'm not attracted to him. Or I'm attracted to him, but he's not a good provider. Or she has a nice body, but her brains is trying to compliment her brains. You know, we have to, you know, we have to be honest with where we are at as far as, you know, what we want to do and how we want to do it. Yeah. And this is why, you know, I go back to the previous segment. We were talking about being objectional as men, being objectional and being analytical and being very concise about what you want. And because if you're not honest with yourself regarding what you want, there's a high percentage chance that you're going to be dissatisfied by what you get.
Yeah.
And this is why people who say, you know what, I'm not going to date anybody for a while. Even though there's certain people who get in relationships, break up, somebody else. See, that's more about themselves than anybody else. And don't, you know, be fair, love yourself enough to don't let anybody have to inherit your trauma.
Yeah.
Heal first, so then you can love. You know, you're afraid to be alone.
Correct.
You know? And sometimes it gets polarized. Sometimes what happens is you're not afraid to be alone, you always want to be alone. That's trauma too.
Correct. Because
now you've created an ideology, oh, I don't need anybody, I'm self-sufficient, I'm independent, but really you're operating off a defeatist mentality. So you're trying to justify why you don't need anybody because you don't trust yourself or anybody else that it could work.
Correct. And I think it should totally start from childhood. You know,
right.
How can I love myself? So yes, that is the law of love. But even as adults, we're supposed to, there's people that don't know what that means at all. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is fear. You know, that's where fear starts, and the fear of being alone, like you said, the fear of not having someone to provide for you, the fear of not, you know, showing emotions to someone else, or even being sexually active because you're supposed to be sexually active. And so, and like you said, it's, you know, even the polar opposite, where people just want to stay away from the mass because it's too much. It's just too much, and so they need that peace of mind. And that's where I think when you're at the bottom, and I don't feel like being being by yourself is being at the bottom. I mean, sometimes, you know, if it may feel that way, whether you're in a relationship or not, that you feel you're at the bottomless pit, but that's where you really get to know yourself, whether you're single or not single. Things happen. And so this is where we have to, and I know I keep going back to children, but I mean, it's just that if we can't do this ourselves, how are we going to teach our children? They're our future. And I know that's so cliche, but I can't help to think that what they're being exposed to is two things. One, that love doesn't matter anymore. That's not important, you know. But you know, money and power does, and so where is the love from there? You know, and even if parents and people that work in the education or medical facility try to help them and show them, it's still like they're exposed constantly to other people, whether they're friends, neighbors, family members, that, you know, money and power comes first. You know, sometimes you know, scriptures are in their faces, and they have to go by, you know, this law of religion, and so I'm not that I'm throwing shame on religion or anything like that. I think it's a great thing to have as a background, but not to love yourself from somebody that wrote a scripture. So you're going by something that somebody wrote. And I know I'm going on and on and on, but in the end, all I want is you know, role models to teach our children that if you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. And so this is where relationships fail, like you said. So that needs to be transformed in a big way. That to me, that's my fear, because you have now these kids who are teenagers or young adults, either killing, mass killing, you know, shootings, mass shootings and stuff like that. Why? Because they weren't shown the proper way of love. And some of them, you know, they say that they have some mental issues, and yes, that could be true. So even if they were born that way, or it was just developed through childhood because of, you know, whatever issue or situations or events that unfolded, you know, now we're going through our young adults and our teenagers killing us, you know, and the people that are committing suicides are people that are our age and older. And so it's not the other way around. These kids don't want to commit suicide for the most part. These kids are trying to kill other people because they don't believe in this system anymore. They don't believe in us anymore.
You know, it's also generational curses.
Yes.
We've gotten so used to doing something that we think, because we've been doing it for so long, that it's actually the right thing to do. There's a difference between skill and experience. It's not how long you've been doing it, it's how good you can do it. And parenting is no exception to that. What do you feed your child? What kind of diet do you have him or her on? How much water do you give them? You know, do they exercise? What are you instilling in these children? And the reason why you can't see past go sometimes is because you don't have a proper foundation or platform, because it was never introduced to you. So sometimes you have parents relearning childhood traumas, and have to be a parent and still teach kids, their kids.
Yes.
You know, so it's a very, very complex science, and that's why it's okay to tell people, listen, get yourself together first. Because see, the thing about it is, love is a different lens than lust and desire.
Yes.
love the lens sees things a lot clearer. It allows you to look at things from a whole different scope. And when you really love yourself, you don't use people because you want to kill time.
Yeah.
You know, if you really want to know how somebody feels about themselves, you have to really look at how they treat others. You know, there's this old saying is if you want to learn somebody's future, look at their past. I disagree with that. I'm going to say this: if you want to learn somebody's future, you have to. It's not their past. You look at their present, because they can always change who they are in the present moment, and that can alter their future.
Yeah.
You know, we're not stuck to the point where we can't make any changes or moves, but we have to be honest. We have to say, you know what? I hurt her, or I hurt him if it's a female. I did this, I did that. You know, I'm wrong for that. Call people and say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used you. I was wrong for that.
And even when that happens, yes, I think that's a great way to start, by saying I'm sorry and acknowledging, but also forgive yourself for doing something like that. You know, don't hold that grudge or that past.
Right.
You know, live in the moment, and I think it should start by forgiving yourself, and then also yes, you know, letting them know that you're sorry.
Right, and sometimes being apologetic or being accountable, I should say, for previous deeds doesn't guarantee they will accept it.
Correct.
But you have to emancipate yourself, and let them deal with their spirit, you know.
Yes.
While you have emancipated yours.
Correct. Good. All right. Well, thank you, Riley, for your insight. We're going to do another part as far as astrology is concerned, because Riley's really good. He's good at anything. I love talking to him because he entertains my craziness. So I love him. But yes, we're going to talk about astrology because that's one thing Riley also knows about. So see you in the next segment.